it's Kim, and I'm here for another week of 10-minute tips for your relationships. And this week, I have somebody so special. Yes, I have my boo with me this week.
Hey.
He's joining me for my 10-minute tips for the next 3 weeks. Why? Because we want to talk about a very special subject matter, a very special topic that all couples, all parents, all friends, all co-workers, all church friends, church members, sisters and brothers, parents and children, we all deal with. And that is...
Wait. We're warning you. It's the F word. Go ahead.
It's the F word. And the F word is forgiveness. Forgiveness, right. Forgiveness is something that every person in this world has to deal with. Now, when I say that, I mean, yes, we have to deal with forgiveness, whether we forgive or we don't forgive.
Give our recipient.
Yes. So, we'll just start with talking about what is forgiveness. Babe, what do you think forgiveness is?
Oh, wow. That's the ability to release someone from a fault or something done against you. From biblical translation, a trespass or something against.
Right.
But also it releases the person that does the releasing.
Right.
More so than a victim or... I think the person victim and predator both need to be, released. But I believe the person that allows the forgiveness to happen releases themselves from the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I totally agree with that. And to me, forgiveness is, I think about it from this standpoint. When I forgive somebody, I simply let them off the hook.
Wow.
I just, it's like,
that's big.
When a person does something to trespass, or like you said, or a person offends you, we have a couple ways that we can deal with that. Either we can get them back, we can say kick rocks.
Not specialty, but pray for God for deliverance.
Or pettiness, right?
Yeah.
But seriously, either we can say, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. Kick rocks. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Or we can say, you know what? I forgive you and let's move forward.
Right.
Or we could act like that person doesn't exist anymore. But when we don't forgive, it really does hurt us. I think you kind of mentioned that before, that when we don't forgive, we really are the ones that suffer. Because sometimes, you can be mad at somebody and they have gone on with life. They're doing their thing,
right.
And you over here in the corner mad, right? You over here mad, and they don't even know you mad.
Right.
You ever been mad at somebody? They don't even know you were mad at them, and then you see them somewhere, and
they don't care.
Right? They don't care. You see them somewhere, and you like, oh, there's that person, and that person's like, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. They have no idea that you're mad at them.
Right.
So this thing called forgiveness, which you called it earlier, the F word.
Right.
This word forgiveness, man, it's packed with a lot. It's packed with a lot.
Yes.
And then, of course, my husband is a pastor. He's a bishop. We are both pastors.
Right.
And so from a biblical stance, of course, if we don't forgive, then God doesn't forgive us. So you know what? Forgiveness from that point of view, that's kind of scary. Yeah, because just to think that as much as I sin and I fall short on a daily basis, if God was not to forgive me, if he wasn't to forgive me, I would be in this fun word that we have, a mel of a hess.
Right.
I would be in trouble if God did not forgive me for all the things that I have done. But when one of the things I want to talk about, is forgiveness in relationships. And I think earlier I mentioned that forgiveness is something that is due in all relationships, not just, husbands and wives, significant others, it's husbands, it's children and their parents. I've had situations in raising my kids where my kids needed to forgive me, because guess what? Sometimes as parents, we raise our children and they tend to believe that we are perfect. So when we fall short as parents, our kids are tripped out because it's like, oh my God, my mother did something wrong, or my dad did something wrong. They came up short. What's up with that? But you know what? There have been times where I've had to go back to my kids and say, forgive me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Or my whole outlook on the situation was wrong. So forgiveness really does fit into every relationship that you have. Every relationship. Talking about, us with our children, and then even us with our siblings, and that's a hard one. That's a hard one, dealing with your siblings, because, you have transitions from relationships that you have with your siblings as young people, as children. And sometimes the things that go unresolved, things that we don't take care of, or maybe our parents didn't take care of when we were kids with our siblings, that stuff rolls over into our adulthood. And it causes problems there. That's not an easy thing to deal with, is forgiveness, dealing with your siblings. A lot of people say, hey, I deal with the family that I can choose, but your siblings are part of your family that you don't choose.
That's true.
That's part of your family you don't choose. So, that's a difficult one to deal with. And then friendships. In friendships, sometimes we do and say things, with our friends or to our friends, and kind of ruffles their feathers, or your feathers get ruffled, or sometimes you don't agree with your friends, and your friends don't agree with you. And sometimes it just puts a block right there with you and someone who's very close to you, so you tend to have to find a way to, find forgiveness in that relationship, Then the other relationship we talked about, our church family, our church friends, we're pastors. I'm sure our congregation, the people who follow us on a weekly basis, they've had to forgive us for things, and we've had to forgive them as well. So as you can see, forgiveness fits into every relationship that you can think of. Every relationship requires forgiveness, or forgiveness doesn't happen in every relationship. But the thing about it is, and I think you said it earlier, it's like, if you don't forgive, wow, sometimes you're hurting more than that person who hasn't been forgiven. And so that's really something to think about. What happens in relationships when we don't forgive each other? What does that really look like?
Honestly, while you're talking about it, I just kept thinking about, you said we've been married 34, going on 35 years next year. And it hasn't always been easy.
Right.
Say 20 years ago, we had a major situation in our marriage. And honestly, I was at fault, totally at fault. And by the time things were all, if you will, in the open, we had to deal with things. And when you're pastors, you deal with things in a very public manner.
Right.
You're human like everybody else, but there's a spiritual connotation on you have to live a certain level, and we should. Accountability, and we should. Don't misunderstand me. But at the same time, it's hard to deal with humiliation and things like that publicly and privately. Some people can do it privately and there is public, but ours became public. But I remember my wife making a statement about the forgiveness part, and she mentioned that if I'm going to stay, I'm not going to be miserable.
Nah.
Because if I'm going to make you miserable, I got to be miserable with you.
I have to be miserable too.
Makes sense to me. Hey. But anyway, it was so much wisdom. And that's 20 years ago. I mean, and so she's much younger than she is now. Just to flow in that kind of a wisdom at that point in her life was a major thing. And she did talk to people of wise counsel.
Wise counsel.
People that were older, had been through some things. And that's one thing you want to do too. While you're filtering through all these things, talk with people that have wisdom.
Absolutely.
People that have been there, done that. T-shirt, hat, and mug, got the memorabilia. They can say, hey, I got a souvenir from that. You don't want to do that. We teach series on fighting and fighting fair and other different things. Get around some people that know some of those things that will help you. In marriage, and we always say, I'll talk about marriage, like marriage is work. And if you're going to work, you need a toolkit.
You need a toolkit.
So get you some tools in your toolkit that you can get to work through some of these problems and situations. And again, the F word is major, forgiveness. You got to learn how to forgive. You can't forgive and really let it go.
Really let it go.
When something comes up around the area that I, violated or crossed a barrier
Y'all
in,
cross lines.
she doesn't bring it back up. She don't throw it back in my face. I'm so blessed. I'm a blessed man of God. Trust me.
Me too.
I know, because I got folks that have been through much less, and they get, and I remember you, da da da. But I don't get that. You really got to let it go, because misery loves company is a saying, or whatever you want to call it, but it is a true saying. Misery loves company.
Saying.
So if you're going to be miserable and make the other person miserable, you got to be miserable too.
Yeah.
Misery comes in twins.
It does.
Holla at your boy.
So today, this is part 1 of forgiveness. Forgiveness, in every aspect. Who you forgive. And then we're going to be talking about how to forgive, why should we forgive, in other situations like that. So thank you for joining us today. These are our 10 tips for your relationships.
All right.
Catch us next week for part 2.
See you on next week.